bad, not bad. Alright, just in case it's not clear, I'm not trying to do a final honing on these. This is definitely not how you're supposed to hone cylinders. What I'm doing is running the hone through to check to see how much damage there is. This cylinder is going to have to be bored out. They're all going to have to be bored out. Well, this one's going to have to be bored out, which means the other two will get oversized as well. So all I'm doing now is trying to clean up the surface and see where the gouges are so that I can determine how deep I'll need to bore it to remove those gouges. This cylinder, even though it didn't look bad, it doesn't have any gouges, was definitely in need of an oversize. It has a really weird low spot or overbore all the way around, about an inch down. Kind of spreads out. I shouldn't speak too soon because it could change in a hurry, but my head is obviously getting a little bit better because a few days ago the sound from that heater, I'm not sure if the camera can pick it up, but it's kind of going wah 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 wah. Anyway, that would have driven my brain nuts. I wouldn't have been able to focus, or yeah, I would have had to go in the house. So it's getting a little better. All of the cylinders have a fairly clear wear spot or overbore, I don't know what you want to call it. Not sure how well the camera will pick up on it, but there's a dark ring about an inch down. You see this dark ring about an inch down? That goes all the way around on all the cylinders. See if we flip it and get it. You can kind of see it there. I bored more off of this one, but you can see it there. You see it there all the way around. This one has your typical ring ridge at the top as well, but it also has that secondary one. This is the cylinder that ended up causing the problem in the end. You can see there's damage here and along there. All in all, not too bad though. You can see there's a low spot down here. It caught a ring there and damaged the sleeve. Hopefully that won't be an issue. We'll see how much I have to take out of the sleeve to repair that. 81, so 1 millimeter over, so they might have been bored at some time. It definitely says, oh yeah, it definitely says 1 mil there, 1.00. The nice thing about these with Wiseco pistons, you can actually go 4 millimeters oversize. Alright, I don't have any really fancy tools for doing this. I've got these snap gauges and some micrometers. Alright, let's check this and see what it says. See if my injured brain can figure out how this thing works. It took me about 10 minutes to figure out using this that in inches this was 3 inches 190 thousandths. This isn't an accurate way to do this, but let's check to see if I can find out how deep these marks are. I'll run the gauge in the damaged area. Yeah, so it's stuck in that groove. If I try to move it anywhere else, it's tight. So that tells us that I'm sitting in that groove somewhat. Let's see how deep the groove is, or approximately. I'm guessing 4 thousandths. probably guess more like 10. 90, 1, 2, 3, 4. 94 thousandths. So 3 inches, 194 thousandths. So the biggest one before was what? I forget already. I know we had a 85 and an 87. Anyway, I was pretty close with my 4 thousandths. Wow, I measured it with the gauge to be 3 inches, 194 thousandths, and this gauge is measuring it at 3 inches, 193 thousandths, 0.5. So pretty accurate, these little things. Not always, but yeah, pretty accurate. In order to clean this up, we would need to go at least a couple thou more than that. So if we say 10 thou more than that, we can go, we'll call it 204, and then we'll switch over to millimeters and see what that is. So basically I could get away with a 1/2 mil bigger. I'll probably just do a full mil on it and go 82 millimeter in the bore. So I'm considering boring my own cylinders out again, but this time going about it in a little bit different way. If you guys have been following my channel throughout this whole jet ski shenanigans thing, then you will know that I bored out my own 650 cylinders on my mill, which is right there. Not an ideal situation for boring out cylinders, which I was quite aware of at the time, but I thought I'd give it a go anyway. Once again, I don't learn from my mistakes that well, so I think I will try doing this myself, but go about it in a slightly different way this time. My idea this time around is to try to mount the cylinders on my cross slide. There's a few benefits to doing it on my lathe over doing it on my mill, and I'm not sure if you guys understand at all what I'm talking about, so I'll explain it in a little bit of detail. Basically, when I was doing it in my mill, I don't have any down feed, so I had to feed down by actually turning my hand. So the boring head spins around, and if I want it to cut 1/1000ths downward, I have to spin this to make it cut the 1/1000ths downward. And you have to do that for 5 whole inches. The bore is about 5 inches long or more. So you have to go all the way down and then screw it all the way back up again. And you can't just take it all in one pass. You have to take several passes, so you have to go back and forth. And because this isn't a very rigid setup, there was all sorts of flex and vibration, and I went through a huge hassle to try to sort that out last time. Ended up getting the job done, but not very well done. It worked for me, but definitely wasn't ideal. With this system, doing it on my lathe, there's a couple of advantages. The first advantage being that I have a cross feed, so when the lathe is turned on, I flip down on this lever and the whole apron moves over that way. I know it's moving slowly, but you can see that is moving. When I lift up on that, it stops. So I don't actually need to hand feed it across. I can just, yeah, flip that lever down and it will do it until it cuts all the way through the bore. With the 4-jaw chuck, I can actually hold a tool that is 1.5 inches. So there's a couple of advantages to using a tool that is that big around. One of those advantages being that it's going to be rigid. It's not going to want to flex a lot. But another big advantage to it is that it's going to have a lot of mass to it. And the more the tool weighs, and in fact the more the chuck weighs, the less likely it is to start vibrating around. I wouldn't be using a drill chuck, I would be using a proper dead center or live center. I don't have a live center, but I don't really want to use a dead center, so I might buy a live center. Anyway, the shaft or the cutting tool would be supported at both ends in the lathe, and the cylinder would be mounted to an angle plate. So the angle plate would be mounted here on the bottom and then here on the cylinder, and then I could adjust basically the height by adjusting the angle. And then the cylinder would be attached to the apron or the cross slide, which means that it would travel through the tool and cut out the bore. The problem with making my own tool is that it wouldn't have micrometer adjustments on it. So every time I did a cut, I would have to check the bore, and then I would try to measure the tool to see how much it was sticking out and how much more I needed to make it stick out to remove the desired amount of material. That could all be very confusing, and machining sometimes leads to cutting your part too big and ruining it, or cutting your part too big and having to order a whole other set of pistons. So I might try to come up with something different. I could possibly try to figure out something that would allow me to use this, but in all honesty, I prefer to have it supported on both ends, because then I'm pretty much guaranteed that it's not going to do a whole lot of vibration. So I can run my mill at 150 RPM, and with that speed and this piece in here, that would probably be fine. The only really tricky part is that I would have to machine a new piece on here. I don't know if I can screw this off. I probably need to put that back in the machine, but this is a quite large thread, and I would have to machine a new thread to thread this on. So, not exactly sure what I'm going to do yet, but either way, I'm going to end up making something to try to bore this out. I'm going to have to buy probably a live center and an angle plate.